It feels like now that the offseason is concluded, and the first time that since Jerry has overseen the Mariners organization, this is like the first time it feels like they've not like left camp a player short. Like you don't look at the roster and you say, well, like there's still a pretty clear hole. I mean, some people are going to say third base, and they certainly have plenty of reason to think that. But I mean, in terms of all the boxes they needed to check in the offseason, DH hole solved for the most part. Second base, given health, solved. Corner outfield spots upgraded in both of them. Like, it's got to check. Like, you start going down the list, and you're like, well, I'm like this is like actually like the circle's complete. It feels like.
Yeah, and earlier in the offseason, I kind of called it like a little magic act, because considering the hand that they were dealt and the lack of resources, they did a really good job putting together a team that people can believe in, like it should have looked different. It should have looked different. There should have been a little bit more money spent. Maybe take a chance on a Bellinger, maybe take a chance on, Jung-Hoo Lee or somebody like that, somebody that with a higher probability, attached to him, even though it was going to cost you more money. I think that would have been ideal. And then maybe a Luke Raley's not here. And in that case, although I love that trade, or you don't make the Mitch Haniger deal, with Robbie Ray, maybe you don't make that deal if you have more money. Robbie Ray is still around for maybe August or September and maybe even next year. And yet you still basically have the same offense you do. And it's like, it's disappointing because with the Brian Wu thing that hit on Monday, and we don't know how long he's going to be out, but the question always comes up is like, what do they do if he is? And then the other side of it, you get some people saying, see, they should have signed Blake Snell. Well, here's the thing. When the offseason started, I was like, they need to get a mid-rotation to back-end rotation veteran. One of my ideas was like Sean Manaea, and I can't remember what he cost, but let's just say it was $10 million or $8 million, something like that. If you spend $8 to $10 million on Sean Manaea because you feel like Brian Wu should start the year in the minors, or you feel like he should start the year in the pen, or you're a little worried about his arm, or whatever the situation is, if you do that, that's $8 to $10 million less in payroll space you have. And guess what you don't get to do at that point? You can have either Jorge Polanco or Mitch Garver with Sean Manaea, but not both. Who would you rather have, even right now with the Brian Wu news, not knowing whether he's going to miss a week or longer? Sean Manaea, just for example, because he cost about that much, or Jorge Polanco, or Sean Manaea, or Mitch Garver. I think you're taking the hitters, right, guys? You're taking the hitter. You're taking Manaea, or you're taking Garver over Manaea, right? And you're taking Polanco over Manaea. So that's the kind of scenario that front office was in, right? Like, it was kind of a no-brainer. The only thing I wish they would have done, and I think it was also difficult, was find that guy that's on the fringe, the Austin Voth type. Find another guy like that you thought could give you 8 starts during the year, 10 starts during the year. That might cost you $2 to $3 million. I was hoping they would find a guy like that. But when you look on the market, like Keenan Middleton got like $6 or $7 million for 1 year as a reliever. You weren't getting a $2 to $3 million guy who you could lean on for 8 to 10 starts. It just wasn't there. It just never, they'd had to trade for it. So I think they have done a really good job. And I think because of that, I think most Mariner fans are still excited for the season to start, and they still believe in this team, despite the fact that ownership didn't hold up their end of the bargain. I don't think there's any other way around it. They haven't. And the front office is saving their ass, so to speak. And I know this is coming up in some circles, but with Service and the contracts for Service and Dipoto, I got to think that's not entirely one-sided. I got to think that Service and Dipoto aren't 100% sure this is the place for them. I don't think Dipoto's walking away, but there might be a little hesitation. Do I deserve this? I think I deserve better than this. I've done a good job. I deserve the support. What in the world is going on? 'Cause 3 times, guys, he's had his offseason plans pulled out from under him. 3 times in 4 years, I think it is. If I'm the GM, man, if Jerry Dipoto hadn't walked away from the Angels, he might have already walked away from the Mariners, but he's not going to get to do that twice and get another president job or a GM job. So I think he's going to sit around and see what he can do this year and kind of see what happens. But it's hard to look at the transactions as a whole and be disappointed, considering what we know about the resources they had to play with. And they didn't trade from the rotation, and they didn't trade Gabriel Gonzalez was the best prospect they traded. Man, I mean, again, magic act, right?
What's kind of remarkable is like the moves in the offseason gave no indication that there was a lame duck manager and a lame duck executive. Like none at all. Like you would imagine if someone's worried about their job, like you have no problem trading any of the top 6 prospects away for a major piece.
You could also make a case though that the reason for that is because they didn't have resources to go do that, right? Like if you're trading, Young and Harry Ford and Gonzalez and Wu in 2 different deals, you're probably bringing back a player that's making money. You didn't have that flexibility, right? Couldn't go get Juan Soto, even if it made sense, because the money wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So maybe some of that had something to do, but you're right. They certainly didn't act like they were trying to save their jobs, because they probably would have been a little bit more aggressive, right? Probably would have seen more prospects traded. Like Harry Ford probably gone, maybe even Cole Young or Colt Emerson probably traded to get a veteran in or try to save their job. So maybe they don't feel like it's lame duck. Maybe it's just a timing thing, but I would not be surprised if we learned that there was a little bit of a hesitation on Service and Dipoto's part about re-signing, or they didn't like the terms. Maybe the ownership, in any conversations they may have had, I don't know that they have or not, weren't really to their liking. Maybe they only wanted to do 1 year or 2 years, and those guys wanted 3 or 4. I think they've earned it. I mean, what's it been, 9 years? And look where they are without spending a bunch of money, kind of saving the ownership's ass every single year, making the team relevant, making that ownership, giving that ownership money to throw into their pockets and not back into the team, right? And that's because Dipoto and Hollander and that group have done such a good job putting this together. I don't know. I sound like a little bit of a Dipoto fan, so to speak. I do think he's done a good job. But I will say this just before we move on, because I've been accused of this before. I don't know Jerry Dipoto. I don't know him. Never met him, never talked to him, never had him on a show, never had him on and I don't want to. We talked about this before. I don't want to. I don't know that he's a great executive, but I think he's good. And I think you get to great by winning divisions and at least threatening World Series, and maybe winning one. I think what's happened in St. Louis over the years has made some of their executives look great. Walt Jocketty and John Mozeliak and Brian Cashman had success, and now, he might be the guy in that division with the hottest seat. But when you win consistently, and Seattle really hasn't won yet, but they're kind of right there in the middle of it. It's too early to call him great, but it's impossible to not sit here and if you truly understand what he was dealt every year and as the bigger picture when he came on in 2016, you can't spend any more money. Like, we can't add to what we're doing, and we might ask you to pare back a little bit, but we're going to allow you to rebuild when it comes time. You just let us know, keep us abreast, and we'll let you do that. But we're not going to spend more money, and then we're not going to let you just spend a bunch of money once it's time. We're going to gradually push that forward, and to do the job that they've done to open up this 54% window from what Jerry Dipoto would call it, right? But that's where they are. They're in a position to maybe be what the Cardinals were from 2006 to 2020 or so. That's what they're trying to do. And they're trying to do that because that's what's going to be dictated of them by that ownership. They're not going to spend $200 million on payroll. So yeah, I do like what Dipoto's done. And I think Justin Hollander's done a really good job supporting him as well. And they have other staffers that deserve credit. But Jerry Dipoto is the best general manager this organization has ever had. Even though he hasn't won as much as Pat Gillick. Pat Gillick was like, let me sell out for these next 2 or 3 years. And at the time it made sense. They had an older club. Jerry Dipoto has shown the creativity and the discipline that Pat Gillick just didn't have to do it. So I hope he stays. I hope he stays around at least another 3-4 years, because I think they can do some damage. And I think they have a chance to do some damage this year.